Hey, my name is Jobby, and after a long, painful wait and a trip to Nevada,
we've got eyes on the target and the alien.
we are finally looking at the Hiya toys. Rodan. And Burning Godzilla. And also the Hiya Toys King Ghidorah. All three figures from the 2019 movie Godzilla King of the Monsters. And I couldn't have done it without the king of the sponsors, Temu.
Holy shit, is that even legal?
Temu is everyone's favorite online marketplace that offers an insane variety of products at some insanely low prices. They do site-wide sales with savings up to 70% off. And they offer free shipping with free returns for up to 90 days. And as you can see, they've sent me a bunch of stuff today, so let's crack this bag open. We got a couple of pens, but not just any pens. These pens can transform. A steam pet brush that's supposed to make dealing with shedding easier. Goji seems to like it. And what's in the sus box? A hot glue gun, which I will be using for purposes. Foldable keyboard. Hinge joint. Some acrylic display risers. Definitely useful for action figures. Even more acrylic displays. A whole ass display box here. I'll definitely be putting stuff in here. Beautiful pillowcase. Art's so good, it makes me want to chop my ear off. And finally, a whole ass tablet. Let's go. I got freaking everything here. So download that Temu app through the link in the description or using my code to get 30% off your first order. New app users even get an exclusive deal on either the hot glue gun or the foldable keyboard. And check out all this cool stuff through the several links in the description. And use my code in the Temu app or check out this link in the description to get a $100 coupon bundle. I'm about to fill up this case. As you can see, Temu are extremely generous when it comes to saving me from the IRS. Thanks again, Temu. And to get this triple review started, I'm not gonna blue ball you any longer. I've been looking forward to the Hiya Toys King Ghidorah ever since I saw that gray prototype. I just knew there had to be something better than the SH Monster Arts version, which wasn't a bad figure. Check out that video, one of the most popular videos on my channel. Thank you. I can't be too mad at that thing. He did save my life, but he also caught me a fat. And unlike the Monster Arts version, this guy's wings are attached out of the box, which is why the box is gigantic. Can't say the same about the tails. Assembly is required. Some potentially frustrating assembly. Getting these shoved in his ass was an experience and was the majority of my Just Playing stream on Jobby too. Like, comment, subscribe. Most of that stream was me giving this guy a nice, even roast, which I highly recommend. Not to actually roast it with a side of potatoes, but to slightly heat up the joints with a hairdryer. Some of these joints are way too tight out of the box, but once everything is set up, loosened a little bit, inserted, god damn, Damn, I don't fucking know. The painting and sculpting on this thing is amazing. Absolutely impressive and visually stunning. Although at first glance his heads do look a bit teeny tiny. Turns out that's actually more movie accurate than the Monster Arts version. In general, the sculpting on this figure makes me realize how movie inaccurate the Monster Arts version was. I mean, just look at the heads. Not that the Monster Arts version was complete trash, but proportionally this feels so much better. But the paint is slightly sloppier. Allow me a tiny bit of cope. This thing is cheaper than the Monster Arts version, but still a pretty penny. Links in the description, by the way. The heads are the only place where the paint kinda falls short. Everywhere else on this thing, mamma mia! The shading throughout the body adds so much depth, which complements the fine organic detail beautifully. And I haven't even mentioned the wings, my word! The painting and detail here are realistic. Folds are accounted for, and there's even some sculpted in cock veins. Huge step up from that relative barren wasteland of the Monster Arts. But just like the Monster Arts, the actual color here is a little too not gold. Hold on, I'll get to it. You want the finger again? Going back to the heads for a bit, I love how wide the mouths can open. Now that's a roar, as opposed to a... Would be nice if you got some beam effect parts to shove in there. Now we're getting into it. Hiya Toys, I'm really rooting for you as a company. Love that you're an affordable yet high quality alternative to Bandai. But announcing a special color version of this guy that's the shade of gold that I crave, with included beam effect parts on the same day that this guy shipped out? I'm still buying it, of course, but fuck off. The only accessories you do get here are 3 stands. Assembly is required, very simple. And each stand has a hinge joint, swivel, and a hinge joint, swivel. And the segments can be detached to shorten it to your desired length. These stands, along with these included forks and cradle, are here to support him in the standard standing up wing spread pose. Pretty much what you get with the Monster Arts. However, to my ecstatic surprise, you don't really need them. This guy stands up with his wings up all on his own, with only his tails for support. Doesn't even feel unstable or wobbly in this pose. And while my copy of the figure has been standing up for weeks on end, I should mention that this could potentially be bad for the joints since they're not the tightest. Just like what I said about the SH Monster Arts Destroyer. I'm sorry, I meant is it such a crime to include ratchet joints on kaiju figures? The shoulder joints really could have used some. Now this doesn't feel like complete jelly. I just wish this was more pleasant to play with and pose. And on that note, ball joint. Some of the ball joints here do suffer from that Bandai bullshit. And in Kevin's case, the whole neck pops off easily. Of course it would be Kevin. 10 segments here connected with ball joints. And each of those ball joints is one of these dumbbell ball joints, which allows for some pretty damn good articulation. You get some side to side. And every ball joint can be a swivel. There's always going to be this slight S-curve to it. You can't completely straighten his neck out. Might bother some people, but it works for me. Mouth could open really wide, as previously mentioned. You got a hinge joint at the tongue. The wings can separate, which frees up the shoulder rotation, which is another word for swivel here. Another swivel here. And there's even a hinge joint there. Pretty much the same amount of articulation for this bottom portion of the wings. Swivel at the base and a hinge joint there. These swivels are stupidly loose. And the top part of the wing here can separate into 3 segments. And they actually lock together pretty tightly, really cool. And each of these segments, similar to the shoulders, have a swivel at the base and a hinge joint. Doesn't look the best, but it makes a little more sense for a particular pose, which is a bit of a process. So you know what? This wing walking pose looks fantastic until you look at the back. The wings being separated mid-membrane isn't the most elegant solution. If anything, these bottom halves of the wings should have been a more flexible material, which I was weirdly opposed to back then. Hell, I wouldn't mind the whole wing being a flexible material. Sounds like a stupid idea, but another figure showed me that it could work. We'll talk about it later. Continuing with our posability segment, ball joint at the chest. Every ball joint can be a swivel. Not a bad range. Allows for some side to side. A crunch, a slight arcing back, very limited ball joint at the hips, which allows for rotation. Can move back that far, not the best spread. A slight bend at the knee swivel, hinge joint at the ankle swivel, ball joint at the toes, which allows for some slight up and down and a decent pivot. As for the tails, 10 segments here, all connected by dumbbell ball joints, just like the neck, which allows for some natural curvy poses. Posability here is pretty good. It's not hyper articulated action man, but just be patient with the weird joint tolerances, and you could get some decent action poses here. What's a little more than decent is the size. It's as massive as it should be. Good luck putting it anywhere, though. Size comparison time. Here's Figma-matic Economy, the Hiya Toys Godzilla vs. Kong Godzilla, the Magic Square Light of Peace Not Optimus Prime, and of course, the SH Monster Arts King of the Monsters, King Ghidorah. Despite the minor issues I have with the paint and joint tolerances, this is epic.
Confirmed infatuation with the alien. Permission to terminate. Mr. President?
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Since we're not quite at the 10-minute mark yet, how about another review? The Hiya Toys King of the Monsters Burning Godzilla is not a depiction of Godzilla dying. Rather, it's the complete opposite. A resurrection thanks to his exploding bug wife. And he beats King Ghidorah in this form, I think. You're not making me watch that movie again. But I will be reviewing this mold again for the 3rd time. This will be quick. The sculpting, of course, is the same. Check out those other 2 videos. But the painting here, specifically the burning effect, looks pretty dang good. But after coming off of the SH Monster Arts Burning Godzilla, I would have loved if Hiya Toys incorporated some clear plastic parts to give this thing a slight glow. But what this guy lacks in clear plastic, it makes up with a richer paint job. Great use of shading, highlights, dry brushing here, which gives this thing an amount of depth that the Monster Arts version doesn't have. And for a more direct direct comparison, I don't have the SH Monster Arts King of the Monsters Burning Godzilla, and this guy doesn't have an atomic breath part. What the hell else is new? So, I feel the need to correct the record on this mold a little bit. One of my major complaints about this guy in my 2 previous reviews was that it wasn't as posable as a Monster Arts figure. And that's still true, but after slightly roasting this guy, being careful not to burn it, the range of articulation here improved significantly. My word, he can look up. Still not completely vertical, but man, I missed out. There's also a lot more waist swivel here, and even the tail is a lot curvier than I previously thought. And I'm not exactly sure if the tip is a bendy wire, but if it isn't, I just bent this thing out of shape for no reason. Even then, I still wish the legs had more of a spread. Posability still isn't amazing, but it's a lot better than I gave it credit for. Size comparison time, Deja Vu, and King Ghidorah. So this guy's pretty great. I'd recommend it if you're a completionist with these MonsterVerse Godzillas. There's really not much else I can say that I haven't already said.
Smoke.
It's the same old mold, just covered in Doritos nacho cheese.
You know, that beautiful shade of orange reminds me of someone.
Shut up, silly woman.
And here we have the Hiya Toys King of the Monsters, Rodan. To be honest, this particular figure was not on my radar. Rodan in general has never been my favorite kaiju. I barely even remember his story from this movie. I just know that he's murdered by Bugwife and he's Mexican. And I also didn't have significant issues with the SH Monster Arts version of this guy. Price for that figure wasn't even that bad considering it was part of a 2-pack. So I didn't have that hunger for an improvement like I did with King Ghidorah. I mean, what could Hiya Toys possibly offer that wasn't already covered by Bandai? Turns out quite a bit. First of all, hook him up to this included stand. He doesn't look the best on the ground. And it's the same exact stand that's included with King Ghidorah. I'd even recommend shortening it in this case. With wings spread and off the ground, the painting and the sculpting on this thing is amazing. Just like every other Hiya Toy sculpt so far, it's full of detail, the texture work is incredible, and man, the painting, significant upgrade to the Monster Arts. It has that light dry brushing that emphasizes the waves of magma on his wings. But for my taste, the dry brushing could have been even brighter to get even more of a volcanic glow. Paint on the face is a tiny bit sloppy, but it's so small that I'm not too worried about it. Looks more than fine enough from a distance. And it looks even more fine when you work these impressive wings. This is the figure that single-handedly sold me on flexible, bendy plastic wings, which makes the stiffies on King Ghidorah a bit disappointing. And for that matter, the Hiya Toys Mothra could have used a set of bendies too. Just look at how smooth this looks. The bendy wire seems to be within the arm portion of the wing, and it seems to be of a high quality. Let's hope it doesn't snap over time.
Like I have.
But enough about the bendies. Let's take a look at the rest of his posability. Ball joint at the head and 2 segments making up his neck, which allows for a nice range of articulation. Dumbbell ball joints here as well. Can look up that far, look down that far. Wish it could have looked even more down. Every ball joint can be. Opening mouth, but no posable tongue. Always a shame. A good side to side ball joint at the shoulder. Every ball joint. And that previously mentioned beautiful bendy wire, whose articulation is practically unlimited. And by default, his wings are at an impressive spread, but you can move the wings even more out, which unfortunately leaves this nasty gap. I'm pretty sure that's not movie accurate. Ball joint at the chest. Every ball joint allows for a crunch and a slight arcing back. Ball joint at the hips allows for some decent rotation, but I wish there was more to it than that. Hip joint seems to be a weakness with Hiya Toys. A simple solution would be a thigh swivel. And just like all the other kaiju today, I refuse to call them titans. Barely their spread. Bend at the knee. Be careful with that tiny hinge joint. Knee swivel, ankle swivel, and a hinge joint at the ankle. And finally, a ball joint at the tail. Every ball joint. And that's it. If not for those impressive bendy wire wings, posability here is just okay. And unlike our previous reviews today, I didn't have to roast this bird to get the most out of him. All his joints are perfectly posable out of the box, which is pretty damn big, by the way, obviously due to the size of the wingspan. And now for the last size comparison time, Mechagodzilla Prime, my previous Hiya Toys reviews, the Burning Godzilla and King Ghidorah, and the SH Monster Arts King of the Monsters Rodan. I was surprised by how much I like this guy. It's a slightly better version of the SH Monster Arts Rodan, but man, do these bendy wire wings add so much flavor.
Oh God!
Oh yes.
We gotta move in now. Go, go, go. It's time to contain the China virus. You degenerate scumbucket! Surrender right the frick now! And review my condom. In the name of the president!
What president?
What?
Are you okay, alien? I've yet to see that alien.
No. President is alien?
I love you, alien! Tacos and burritos! I love you, Mexican. Hey, my name is Jobby, and we're looking at the Master Grade Zeta Gundam Verka.